You know, there are some parts of the Bible that just stop you in your tracks. This is one of them. We're about to dive into this incredible paradox. How do you shine in a really dark and broken world? And the answer comes from a guy writing from a prison cell. So yeah, let's unpack these 5 verses from Philippians and see what's going on here.
Okay, so get this. The book of Philippians, it is without a doubt the most joy-saturated letter in the entire New Testament. I mean, the words joy or rejoice show up 16 times. But here's the kicker, and you really have to let this sink in. The Apostle Paul wrote this while he was in a Roman prison. We're talking around AD 62, chained up, waiting for a trial that could very well end with his own execution.
Now, this is not some kind of forced positivity, right? This isn't just think happy thoughts while everything's falling apart. No. This is something way stranger, way more powerful than that. This is the joy of a man who is so completely captured by Jesus that even the threat of death, it just can't touch his gladness. And that's the headspace, that's the context we need to be in as we step into these verses.
So right before our passage, Paul has just laid out this absolutely beautiful, profound hymn about Jesus, how he emptied himself, humbled himself, all the way to death on a cross. It's this huge cosmic story. And then, bam, he brings it right down to street level. This is where that massive story lands in the dirt and the mess of our actual daily lives.
And what's the command? It's so simple. Do all things without grumbling or disputing. Can you believe that? After this majestic, soaring hymn about Christ, his very first instruction is, stop complaining. Seems a little small, right? But what if that one little instruction actually carries the weight of the entire biblical story?
All right, to really get why this is such a big deal, we've got to rewind. We have to go way back in time to a story that is absolutely foundational for God's people, their time wandering in the wilderness.
The Greek word Paul uses here for grumbling is gogismos, and it's an onomatopoeia, which just means the word sounds like what it is. Say it, gogismos. It's that low, muttering, under-your-breath complaint. But theologically, it's way more than that. It is the sound of unbelief. It's the sound of a heart passing a guilty verdict on God, basically saying, you're not good, and I don't trust you.
And here's where it gets really interesting. This is the exact word used in the Greek version of the Old Testament to describe the Israelites' complaints in the desert. Think about it. These are the people who are just freed from slavery by mind-blowing miracles. They watched the Red Sea part. They were literally eating bread that fell from the sky. And what did they do? They grumbled. That gogiasmos, that sound, it revealed a heart that could see God's power plain as day, but still refused to trust his goodness.
So Paul is painting this incredibly stark contrast for us. On one side, you have the wilderness generation. They get bread from heaven and they complain about the menu. On the other side, you have Jesus, the true bread of heaven, who gives his own body to be broken, and just like Isaiah prophesied, he opened not his mouth. Not a word of complaint. Paul is basically setting up a choice for us. Whose path are you on? The path of the grumbling generation or the path of the silent, trusting son?
And this choice, well, it has cosmic consequences. Paul says that when we choose that life of trust, the non-grumbling life, it has an incredible purpose. It actually makes us shine.
He calls believers children of God without blemish. Now that is sacrificial language. It's pointing straight to Jesus, the perfect, unblemished Lamb. And that phrase, crooked and twisted generation, that's a direct quote from Deuteronomy describing faithless Israel. So Paul's saying the world is bent, it's turned away from God, and right into that darkness, God's kids are meant to do something extraordinary.
He says we shine as lights in the world. The Greek word here is phosteres, and this is just incredible. This is the exact word used in the Greek translation of Genesis chapter 1 for the great lights God hung in the sky, the sun, the moon, the stars. Do you see what Paul is saying? He's saying that the church, that we, are God's new sun and moon in a world that is totally lost in spiritual darkness.
This whole idea, this imagery, it's woven through the entire Bible. It starts with the lights of creation. Then God promises Abraham his family would be like the stars. It pops up again with the prophecy of a servant who would be a light for all nations. And it all culminates with Jesus looking at his followers and saying, you are the light of the world. Our calling to shine is the fulfillment of a promise thousands of years in the making.
Okay, so how do we do it? How do we shine? What's the power source for these new stars in the sky? Well, the key is found in what we're holding on to. Paul says we shine by holding fast to the word of life. Now, the Greek verb here, epikontes, has this brilliant double meaning. It means to cling to something for your own life, like your life depends on it. But it also means to hold it out for others to grab onto. So we are sustained by the word of life at the exact same moment that we're offering it to a dying world. It's one single action.
And here's the most important point. The word of life is not just a book or a philosophy or a good message. It's a person. You hear it in John's first letter when he talks about the word of life that they've seen and touched. Jesus himself said, "I am the life." So holding fast to the word of life means holding fast to Jesus.
Now, in these last two verses, Paul turns the camera on himself. And in this stunning move, he completely reframes his potential execution not as some tragedy, but as an act of worship.
He says, even if I am to be poured out as a drink offering. So what's that? A drink offering in the Old Testament was the final touch. It was the wine poured out over the main sacrifice to complete the whole thing. It wasn't the main event, but it was the beautiful, finishing act of worship.
And this shows us exactly how Paul sees his situation. He looks at the faith of the Philippians, their shining, their trust, their non-grumbling, and he sees that as the main sacrifice on the altar. His own life, if it's poured out in martyrdom, well, that's just the drink offering poured on top. He literally transforms a shameful Roman execution into a final, joyful act of priestly worship. He's not the victim here, he's the one leading the celebration.
So let's bring all these incredible threads together, because every single image in this passage has one gravitational center.
Just think about it. Who is the one who lived his entire life without gogging smos, without grumbling? It's Jesus. He is the unblemished Lamb. He is the true light of the world. He is the living word of life. He is the ultimate offering poured out for all of us. Every single theme Paul has woven through these verses finds its source and its absolute perfection in the person of Jesus Christ.
And what that means for us is that our shining, it's not about trying harder. It's not about gritting our teeth and trying to generate our own light. No, the light we shine is borrowed light. We're moons, not suns. It's the natural, unavoidable overflow of getting so close to Jesus, the true sun, that his radiance just gets on you.
So, in the end, the invitation of this passage isn't to try harder to stop complaining or to strain harder to shine. The real invitation is simpler and deeper. It's to look longer at Jesus, to see him more clearly. Because the call is not to shine brighter, but to draw closer to the light. So the question this leaves us with is this: what is one way you can draw closer to him this week?